Hello there. For this tasting, I'm taking a look at a Sauvignon Blanc from Chile. So this is Vina Leyda's Reserva, and it is labelled as Garuma. Evidently, a Garuma is a small seagull that lives in these areas. The wine is a D.O. Val de Leyda, and Leyda is a sub-region of the San Antonio Valley, and it lies about 55 kilometres to the west of Santiago, toward the valley running down to the coast. It's a relatively recently exploited region for producing cool climate, high quality fruit in this part of Chile. It's somewhere where onshore breezes coming across the deep ocean, where the cooling Humboldt current runs, can cool the climate significantly. There are also morning fogs that can shield vineyards from the heat of the sun. The area was only really exploited in the 1990s, and that only really happened once irrigation had been introduced to the region. A 5-mile pipeline bringing water from the Maipo Valley was sufficient to do this. Here, evidently Vina Leyda have 2 vineyards. One is 4 kilometres from the sea and the other is 12 kilometres from the sea. They have a mix of soils. They're mostly granitic soils, but one of the vineyards has some clay. So the granitic soils tend to be very free draining and give a really fresh, crisp aspect to the fruit, whereas the clay soils give more richness and ripeness. And actually, this is a wine that has been made to create various contrasts. For instance, the planting, they list 3 clones that are planted in this vineyard. I think significantly, or in these 2 vineyards, sorry. I think significantly the main thing is that clone 1 from Davis adds a sort of a weight and a creamy richness to the wines. There's a clone 242 which adds tropical flavours, and then there's another clone 107 that adds herbaceous edges. So taking these different clonal characteristics and combining them in one wine helps to build complexity in the final wine. Here is hand-picked, and at the winery a portion of it undergoes some pre-fermentation maceration. The majority of it, however, is gently pressed using pneumatic presses to give very clean juice which is settled out. This is a fermentation of the clean juice element, which will have a lovely mineral freshness, and then this portion which has had a bit of skin contact to give them more richness and roundness. So there's a continual combination of different elements that will give richness or will give herbaceous freshness, with the idea of producing a wine with both these elements at the end, giving greater complexity. Fermentation goes on in very cool temperatures, 13.5 for most of it, and then just rising to 16 degrees at the end. So all in stainless steel tanks. The wine stays in tank and ages with its yeast lees for a few months prior to bottling. So I think what you've got here is a lovely, classic, cool climate, quite pungent Sauvignon Blanc. The sort of thing that actually Chile makes quite a lot of, and it's great value for money if you enjoy this sort of style. So let's have a look at it and see what we make of it. First thing to say is you've got a fairly pale colour. This is a greenish, it's a pale yellow with greenish hints. Swelling it, it's 13% alcohol. It's not particularly clinging to the glass. It's a dry wine, so there's not a great viscosity there. The aromas are pungent. They're grassy. There are notes of gooseberry. And there's some sort of mineral chalky notes as well. Tasting it. The wine is dry, but there's a tiny tropical ripeness in there as well, which stops it from being astringent. There's a fresh, crisp acidity that's really making my mouth water at the front of my tongue. The elements of the fruit are sort of quite greenish. There are notes of asparagus, there are notes of gooseberry, perhaps hints of blackcurrant leaf, that sort of slightly herbaceous note as well. There's a slightly mineral edge, and the texture is quite creamy and rounded. This is a wine of mid-weight. It's not just a light, fresh Sauvignon Blanc. It's got a bit of weight and richness and roundness to it. The 13% alcohol is nicely in balance, and that's contributing to that roundness without standing out particularly. The finish has those sort of elements of green gooseberry, maybe kiwi fruit, passion fruit sort of notes, but still a good freshness. It's a minerally acidity coming through at the end there. So a really nicely balanced wine, and you can see how the different elements have been put together, the sort of the richer fruit, the more herbaceous clones, and how this wine has been put together to achieve a complexity and a balance that is really, I think, very appealing. Not a wine I'd think of aging for any particular length of time. A wine that provides lovely freshness, crispness. It's not a hugely complex wine, but it's very well made and nicely balanced. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting. If you enjoy our videos, please leave your comments. We'd love to know what you hear. Do please sign up and follow our YouTube channel. Do also tell your friends, hit the like button, that would all be great. But most importantly, I think it would be great if you could make the time to join us for another video tasting very soon. Thank you very much. Bye now.